So first of all, thank you very much for giving me time to talk about the Mongolian situation. And I'm Gerel from Mongolia. In my presentation, I will talk about the economic situation of persons with disabilities and during the pandemic situation. So in my presentation, I will give you the brief introduction about the current employment rate of persons with disabilities and difficulties, and also the measures we need to take in the future. So first of all, I would like to give you some numbers. In Mongolia, there are 107,000 persons with disabilities, and which is the 3.3% of the total population. But when we talk about the employment rate, only 21, around 21%. So, of course, in terms of the legislations, there are a number of laws concerning to promote persons with disabilities employment. We have the labor law. Labor law contains some article with the quota system. The article 111 states that organizations with 25 and more than shall employ persons with disabilities equal per percent of the total employees. We have reasonable accommodation. Somehow, this law promotes the reasonable accommodation for persons with disabilities at workplaces. Also, we have the program to promote persons with disabilities employment opportunity. Also, every year there are some budget is allocated to implement that employment program. So if we see this all legislations in the allocated budget, things are going okay. Everything is very supportive, but on the ground level, it's not like that. Uh, I can say that implementation of those legislations and programs are really not sufficient. So I would like to give you some example how not sufficient of implementation of those laws. The first, I would like to give some example of this quota system. When we see the quota system, the law says supports that quota system, but survey was conducted in 2018, and result of that survey, it was found out that most of entities they are not comply with that law. Almost 12% of the total employees. There are around 5,000 entities which has have to be employ persons with disabilities, but only 12% of them are complying the regulations. 25% of them have some kind of person with disabilities. So almost 63% of them are not comply these regulations, and that's a very clear example how this quota system is failing to be to implement. And I think we have the not sufficient small time. That's why I will leave some sentences. I hope that you are seeing that presentation I produced. So the quota system implementation is not sufficient. Also, I would like to say a few words about the implementation of national program to promote employment opportunity of persons with disabilities. If we see that program, there are a number of activities relating to the employment of persons with disabilities. I can say that there are five type of activities, but unfortunately, that there are no linkage, there are no comprehensive activities, and also some activities not based on the persons with disabilities needs. For example, there are training for job preparedness of persons with disabilities, but term of that activity is only um, 5 to 7 days. Within that day, we cannot um, train persons with disabilities. We cannot prepare persons with disabilities for the job places. Also, there is a skills um, training to provide the skills for persons with disabilities, but term is also the 21 days. Also, it's not sufficient. So I can say that the activities are not linked to each other, and also those are not disability individual based. So that's why this program is also not good, not supportive for persons with disabilities. Those are two examples how those the legislations are failing to promote persons with disabilities employment opportunities. So after that, I would like to say that also the survey was conducted among the entities and try to find out what is the reason not employing persons with disabilities. And there are number of reasons, and you can see that list, and you can see the proportion of their response. The main response of them are they say that persons with disabilities they have the um, very difficult for uh, employers to provide reasonable accommodations. Persons with disabilities mostly they are not irresponsibility. Also, they have the poor health, and also some of them say that persons with disabilities are less productivities. They have the less qualification, etc. Those are main reasons responded by the employers. So after that, employers knowing also we found out that most of the employers they don't know the um, legal supportive system for persons with disabilities. So those are the main facts. And now I would like to briefly mention about the difficulties faced by persons with disabilities during this pandemic situation. After now, Mongolia, there is no locally transmitted COVID-19 cases, and no DPO and persons with disabilities affected that COVID-19. From the 1st of September, every measures taken by the government has been cancelled, and everything is going okay normally in Mongolia inside, except the closure of the borders. And during the pandemic situation, of course, between February and August, government took some measures, and it has some negative effects to persons with disabilities employment. For example, they really lost their income. Um, Persons with disabilities they engage some businesses. For example, some people engage with the handcraft businesses, and mostly they sell their products to the tourists, but that activities is stopped. The massage centers around the blind people also lost their income. Also their most of persons with disabilities they labor contract is terminated because during that pandemic situation companies terminated a number of labor laws with their employees. So the person with disabilities first dismissed the employment contract. And those are difficulties faced by a person with disabilities. Of course, the government took number of measures to prevent the companies uh, to have the more loss. Um, but at the beginning, in that measures, persons with disabilities didn't include it. But DPOs, we conducted some advocacy activities, and the result of that activities, persons with disabilities were included, and they get some benefit. Lastly, I would like to briefly mention about the SDGs. Somehow in 2016, national SDGs was approved, and during that time, there was no involvement of persons with disabilities, and persons with disabilities issues not reflected in that national SDGs. But this year, in May of 2020, the Mongolian parliament, government developed the new national SDG, and parliament approved that SDG in May 2020. But this year, DPOs, we really tried our best to include our issues in that national SDGs. And the result of that, 20, our some of our issues reflected in that SDGs. For example, 29 times persons with disabilities related issues are included in SDGs. It's a quite good for us. Now, only things which we have to consider is implementation. On the paper, everything is going okay. Now, the implementation is very important. So, very finally, I would like to say the recommendations which we need to take in the further about the SDGs. We need to educate persons with disabilities in DPOs about the SDGs to ensure the good implementation in the future. and also we need to improve the collaboration with other multi-sectoral um, the other the organizations, and also the about the employment things. We recommended that we need to take some monitoring activities to ensure activities in the existing laws promoting persons with disabilities employment, because there is a laws but implementation not good. That's why we need to monitoring activities. Also, we need to sensitize employers about the quota system, about the ability and rights of persons with disabilities, and we need to educate them to hire the persons with disabilities. And also the lastly, we need to take recommend that persons with disabilities themselves should be a good qualification with need meet of the employers. So thank you very much. That's my brief presentation. Okay.